Great day, second grade students and families. It's Mr. Sargent here with an extra special video entitled Remote Learning. Now, due to the inclement weather that we received today, school was canceled, but we don't want you to miss out on any of the education that we have. So what we're going to be doing today is going over a number of the lessons in reading, math, and in social studies to make sure that you understand and you know what to do when it is time to do the remote learning packets. So if you have the packets that were handed out on Tuesday, definitely have those out as we go over them together. Now, feel free to pause the video and work on certain sections and work on certain areas as we go through it. My goal for this is to help anybody that needs it. We're going to be able to do a read along. We're going to be able to play a Kahoot. We're going to be able to do a number of things that should help you. So when we come back all together after this weather system is done, we know what we're doing. Okay? So if you got all of your stuff, let's go ahead and begin. We are going to start today with a reading comprehension. Now, yesterday, I handed out this reading comprehension talking about Walter Lincoln Hawkins. He's a polymer chemist and an inventor. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use our strategy of Unreal, right there, to go ahead and work on this reading comprehension together. All right, so before we read, let's do some APK and learn a little bit about Walter Lincoln Hawkins.
Walter Lincoln Hawkins, born in 1911 in Washington, D.C., was the grandson of a slave. He attended Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute after high school and was one of only 2 African-American students. Hawkins earned his doctorate from McGill University in 1938, becoming the first black person to hold a technical staff position at Bell Laboratories. While at Bell Labs, Hawkins developed his most famous invention, a weather-resistant polymer coating for telephone wires. This plastic sheath could withstand extreme temperature changes and last for decades, replacing the lead materials previously used to protect telephone cables. Hawkins' invention revolutionized the telecommunications industry and significantly impacted everyday life. In 1976, Hawkins retired from Bell Labs and was appointed research director by the Plastics Institute of America. His groundbreaking work as a scientist and inventor opened doors for future generations of black scientists and helped shape the world we live in today.
So if you got it out, let's go and go ahead and get started. Now, if you don't have it out, you feel free to read along with me, and you could always go back and go through it. So I'm going to shrink myself down. There I go. And we're going to go ahead and work on this reading comprehension together. So if we put our reading comprehension up there, we see that the title is Walter Lincoln Hawkins, polymer chemist and inventor. First of all, we're going to put our name on it, and we're going to underline the title because that is the U in Unreal. So go ahead and underline the title just like this. All right. Then we're going to go through and number the paragraphs. If we look at it, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 paragraphs. Definitely go ahead and number those. See, now that you have those numbered, we can flip the page over and we're going to focus on breaking down the questions before we do the reading. This is the R in Unreal. So if we flipped it over, we will see our questions. Now, one thing you're going to notice is there's another reading comprehension that is attached to this. This will be done tomorrow. If we have another remote learning day tomorrow, we're going to go over the Rebecca Lee Crumpler reading comprehension. Okay, so we're on the questions about Walter Hawkins. Number 1 says, what was Walter Hawkins' most significant achievement? Now, I would go ahead and underline significant achievement. This is what that means is this is what is the biggest thing that he did with his life. What is the most important thing? What is the thing he is known for in his life? All right. Number 2, how did Walter Hawkins' accomplishments impact the scientific community? I love that word impact. With this story, we're going to be reading about things that Walter Hawkins did. Now, for our answer here, we'll go over things that he did that affected the scientific community, how people look at science. All right. Number 3, how did Walter Hawkins' accomplishments impact the general public? I would go ahead and underline general public. What this means is, how did his accomplishments help the everyday person? And number 4, what events played a role in Walter Hawkins' rise to fame? Pretty much, what events caused him to be famous? We can actually underline the word fame there. All right. So you have your questions underlined. You have the title underlined. You have the paragraphs numbered. You have your name on it. Ladies and gentlemen, let's start reading. So we're going to start off on paragraph 1. Feel free to follow along with me. Walter Lincoln Hawkins, polymer chemist and inventor. Walter Lincoln Hawkins was an American chemist and engineer, often regarded as the pioneer of polymer chemistry. He worked at Bell Laboratories and is most well known for designing long-lasting plastic to wrap telephone cables. This invention allowed the introduction of telephone service to Americans across the country, especially those in rural communities. In addition to his research and innovations, Hawkins was a strong advocate for minority students and established the Bell Laboratories Summer Research Program for minorities and women. He also helped establish the Bell Laboratories Cooperative Research Fellowship Program, which recruits and supports minorities seeking a PhD in engineering. Both programs benefited minorities after Hawkins' death. All right. So now already in paragraph 1, I think we went through a couple of our answers there. So as I'm reading, if you want to hit pause and go back and underline what you think is important, definitely do that. All right. I'm going to go on to paragraph 2, rise to fame. Hawkins exhibited an interest in creating things and learning about how things worked at an early age. When he was young, he often took apart his toys and reassembled them to make new toys. After graduating high school, he attended the RPI in New York. He was only one of 2 black students at the school. He graduated with a BS in chemical engineering in 1932. He then enrolled at Howard University, where he earned a master's degree in chemistry in 1934. 4 years later, he earned a PhD in chemistry at McGill University in Montreal, Canada. He stayed at the university for several years, teaching and researching cellulose chemistry. In 1942, Bell Laboratories hired Hawkins. He was the first African American to join its staff. Hawkins eventually became head of his department in 1972. Early in his career, he focused on producing cheap alternatives to rubber that could be made in the United States during World War II. After the war, Hawkins focused on creating new and improved insulation for telephone cables. At the time, cables were encased in expensive lead over incredibly long distances, and common plastics were brittle and couldn't be used for outdoors for long periods of time. In 1956, Hawkins helped invent a plastic that could withstand extreme fluctuations in temperature, last for up to 70 years, and was cheaper than lead. This invention allowed affordable phone service to thousands of Americans, especially those in rural areas. Later in life, we're on paragraph 4. During the 34 years Hawkins worked for Bell Laboratories, he contributed to 18 patents, 55 research articles, and 3 books. He focused on minority advocacy efforts after his retirement from Bell Laboratories in 1976. He died in 1992 at the age of 81. All right, this man was incredible. All right, now let's go to the questions. What was Walter Hawkins' most significant achievement? If we go back to paragraph 1, it will tell us some of the things that he invented. For your answer, I would put something that he invented. Okay? Number 2, how did Walter Hawkins' accomplishments impact scientific community? Well, talk a little bit about what he invented and what that meant to science. See, inventing a brand new plastic is a pretty big deal. Maybe talk a little bit in this answer about the uses for this plastic and why it is so helpful. Number three, how does his accomplishments impact the general public? How did it affect people like you and me? Well, listen, back then, could people make long distance calls? Were phones everywhere? No, they weren't. So this allowed phones to be anywhere, and the lines could be covered and protected, and they lasted longer. And number four, what events played a role in Walter Hawkins' rise to fame? Pretty much, I would talk about his accomplishments at his laboratories, what he invented, and how he helped people. He helped a lot of people. And for number four, that's where I'd write the answer. So take some time, go back into the story, find your proof, find your answers, and ladies and gentlemen, good luck. Cannot wait to check them when you come back. Right here, we have our parts of speech. We have nouns, which are people, places, and things. We have verbs, which are actions, and we have adjectives that describe nouns. Now, we know this, and a lot of this should be review. So today I've created something extra special for each and every one of you. If you log into Kahoot.it, and if you look over here at what your class code, see, if you're in my class, it's this code. If you're in Miss Lewis's class, it's this code. If you're in Miss Daniel's class, it's this code. Go ahead and log on to Kahoot.it, put your class's code in, create your name, put your, no nicknames. I want your name on here, and go ahead and complete the review on the parts of speech. Now, if you want to hit pause at any time and complete these activities, by all means, I highly recommend it. It's sometimes better just to work on it one thing at a time. But this Kahoot should help you out a lot. All right? So now we're on to math. Now, the first thing with math is you have a packet of review work. Now, I've already made videos going over all of the review work. My advice is do as much as you can in about 20 to 30 minutes. Work on this review packet. Do what you can. Now, if you're looking for something fun, though, well, you may want to try this out. Now, you can do this next part with any paper. I am just so happening to use one of my favorite colors, orange, to do this. Now, if you have been in my class before, you've noticed how I love creating vocab charts and foldables to help me study. So what we're going to do today is make a triangles and quadrilaterals folding chart. Now, depending on how many days we are remote, I would do triangles on day one, quadrilaterals on day two. So what you do is you take your paper and you fold it like so. You make sure everything is lined up. So since we're talking about triangles, we're going to focus on the big three. We're going to focus on isosceles, scalene, and equilateral. So for the first one, all I need to do is split my paper into thirds. So I get my trusty ruler and I draw two lines, because if you draw two lines, it's going to make three boxes, isn't it? Okay. Now, what I will do now is I'll speed this up, but I'm going to quickly draw all three triangles. We're going to draw the equilateral, which means all the sides are equal. We're going to draw the scalene, which means all the sides are different. And we're going to draw the isosceles, which means two sides are the same. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that now. And just like that, we have our three triangles. Now, if you notice with the lines, you see how the equilateral triangle has one line going through each side? That's to show they're the same measurement. You see how isosceles has two? There's one line, and then there's two lines. That's to show that it has two equal sides. And our scalene triangle here has all three sides different. So then I get my scissors and I open it up and I cut along the line. Just like that. Now on the inside, what we can write is, well, things that we know about equilateral triangles. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually write equilateral triangle. Like that. Okay? Now, what do we know about equilateral triangles? Very good. They have all the same sides. There we go. Now, if you know any other facts about equilateral triangles, you could always add it in there later. Then we do the same thing for isosceles. There we go. Isosceles has two sides that are equal. And finally, scalene. And finally, there's the scalene, where all the sides are different sizes. Now, once again, you can make this yours, and this is a great study tool to help you understand and distinguish between the different kinds of triangles. Now, tomorrow, if we have another remote day, we're going to do the same thing with the quadrilaterals, so stay tuned, because the quadrilaterals have a lot more detail that you can add to it. And now for social studies. Yesterday, I gave you a paper that looked like this, where you had to analyze what this ad was selling. And we know this ad right here is selling Happy Meals. Not watches, but Happy Meals. See, your challenge now is going to be to take your product that you invented and create an ad for it. Now, I would never give you something unless I did it first. So, ta-da! All right, here is my ad for my product, Sarge Sauce. Now, if you look at what I did, I have made the title of it really big. The product needs to be, the name needs to be there. There's power in a name. If you look, I drew a picture of what my product looks like, and I'm sure that you all can do way better artwork than I can. So I'm looking forward to seeing your picture. But I added color, made it look somewhat nice. And then I used persuasive language to try to convince people to buy it. Up here, I said, be like your favorite teacher and buy Sarge Sauce. Over here, 50% off because everybody likes a deal. It says right here, run faster, buy now, read better, supplies are running out, and have incredible hair like Mr. Sargent. Now, however your product's going to look, it's up to you. Whatever you're going to do for this, make sure, one, it's looking nice. Make sure that you are being persuasive and you're using that language to convince it. Make it colorful, make it look neat. Do a great job. I believe in each and every one of you. I think you can do this. If you finish this, I want you thinking about your own commercial too. So if I put this up, you will see I gave you a thing that had 6 rectangles in it. This is the beginning of your plan for your commercial. Now, if you remember stories, every story has a beginning, middle, and end, and you can break that down visually if you wanted to. See, all stories are told in sequence, in segments. And pretty much what you're doing with this and this whole idea of us creating commercial is, well, you're telling a story of why your customer should buy your product. So what I'd like you to do is use this story map, use this grid as the beginning of your commercial. How do you want your commercial to start? We put that in the first box. And throughout the boxes, tell a story about why someone should buy your product. Because our customers, well, they need a reason and they want to be entertained. And it's up to you to persuade them. So, using this box, The blank boxes, you would draw the pictures of what you want your commercial to look like, from the background to what the characters are doing, who's the characters in your story. And in the lines below, what you're going to do is you are going to tell me the story. You're going to write out what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. Ladies and gentlemen, have fun with this. Good luck with this. And most of all, take your time. It does not have to be finished in one day. All right. You may come up with other ideas. You may be watching TV right after you're done watching this video, and you may see a commercial that you want to replicate or mimic, and that's okay. But remember, you're only limited by your own creativity, and ultimately what you want to do is try out your persuasion words and how you're going to sell your product. Now, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you for joining me on this remote day. I hope all of you are safe, warm, out of the weather, and honestly, I can't wait to see each and every one of you when you come back to school.